Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Medscape report today, news report today, out of Reuters Health Information. The link for this report is here, but it'll also be in the description. This is a little long to copy, I get it. Today we're going to talk about Lilly's Mounjaro leads to more and faster weight loss than Novo obesity drug, data analysis finds. And this is by Nancy Lapid, and it was reported November 28th, 23. So it's hot off the presses. Let's see how they're going to compare these two drugs, the tirzepatide with the semaglutide. This is really, remember in one of the previous videos I made, we talked about we've got ourselves a real horse race now. So what they found is that overweight or obese adults lost more weight and shed pounds faster using Lilly's Mounjaro compared with Novo Nordisk's rival, so which is the semaglutide, and later on they go on to define it as Ozempic or Wegovy. Within 1 year of starting treatment, 42.3% taking the tirzepatide, again, this is the Lilly's Mounjaro, so 42.3% of those taking the tirzepatide, the active ingredient in Mounjaro and Zepbound, had lost 15% of their weight. So later on we're going to read something which seems it's a little confusing, but we'll just go with this for now. Essentially what they're saying, they started the treatment, they looked at the within about a year, how many people had lost 15% of their weight. And what they found was for the tirzepatide, 42.3% had lost 15% of their weight compared to 19.3% taking the semaglutide. So essentially they're saying, if you start at year one, you have a weight, look a year down the road, how many people have achieved a 15% weight loss? And you're seeing 42% did with the tirzepatide versus 19% among patients taking the semaglutide. Now, we are going to have to look at who these patients were, what defines them, so we can see if this is a fair and accurate matchup. So what they say is they took the individual risk factors into account, and they found that patients taking the Mounjaro were 76% more likely to lose at least 5% of their body weights. So when we look at what's the percentage that lost 5%, not the 15% we just talked about, but 5% of their body weight, 76% more in the Mounjaro group lost 5%. Also, they go on to say that it's more than twice as likely that they lost 10%. So we can see, each percentage is going to be harder. So those who lost 5%, 10% versus 15%. So they're saying for the percentage that were able to lose 10%, we're twice as likely to achieve that goal, and more than 3 times as likely to achieve the 15% weight loss. So they're saying the probability of losing weight with the tirzepatide within a given period of time, when time is the factor that you're analyzing, it's going to be higher on all accounts, all three for the 5, 10, and 15% of weight loss. Now, she does go on to say that this is not a head-to-head randomized controlled trial. So this is an important piece of information, especially for clinicians who are trying to make a decision for their patients and their patient care. But it is not a head-to-head randomized controlled trial. They did, however, look at the electronic health records and pharmacy dispensing data to analyze the weight loss trajectories of a little over 9,000 patients. Patients receiving Mounjaro and the same number of closely matched patients receiving Ozempic. So I found this interesting that they were here comparing Mounjaro to Ozempic, which Ozempic is designated as a is a type 2 diabetic drug. So I know there's a lot of off-label prescribing of Ozempic, but now that Wegovy is there, same thing as Ozempic, but Wegovy intended for weight loss, was interesting to me that they chose Ozempic in this rather than let's compare their Mounjaro to Wegovy. So don't know what that's about. More to find. The average participant weighed 242 pounds and about half had type 2 diabetes. So with this half having type 2 diabetes, I'm assuming that they broke both the Mounjaro, those patients in the Mounjaro group also had type 2 diabetes. It's not just the Ozempic class that did. And if you go back over one of my previous videos, there's a discussion of how the type 2 diabetes was affected the rate of weight loss with Wegovy / Ozempic. So want to make sure that we really are comparing apples to apples. So after 3 months of treatment, patients on Mounjaro had lost 2.3% of their body weight. So after 3 months, they'd lost 2.3% of their body weight. Then those with Ozempic. The study also found by 6 months, this had widened to 4.3. So at 3 months, Mounjaro had had an average of 2.3% more body weight loss. By 6 months, 4.3% body weight lost, and by 12 months, the Mounjaro group had lost 7.2% more weight than the equivalent with the Ozempic. Now, what's interesting to everyone, especially those of us, and I include us in this because I am also on a semaglutide, the rates of GI adverse events were similar in both groups. The researchers note that Ozempic and Mounjaro are both intended for use by people with type 2 diabetes, but half of the study participants were using the drug for weight loss only, which may have impacted the results. So that's what I said earlier. I think this is a big confounder of the data. I'd want to know, did half of those be taking the Ozempic and half of the type 2 diabetics taking Mounjaro, that they weren't all sort of clustered among the Ozempic group and that they were evenly dispersed. I'm going to assume they were, because otherwise it would be just too obvious of a, let's call it boo-boo to make if you're not comparing a type 2 diabetic group with another type 2 diabetic group. All right, so Novo Nordisk in an emailed statement said, okay, so this is important here. The dose of semaglutide evaluated in this analysis have not been investigated for chronic weight management, and there are no head-to-head trials that have been reported which evaluate Wegovy and tirzepatide. So again, interesting that they go back and forth between the active ingredient and the brand name. So they're not saying evaluate Wegovy versus Mounjaro, and above when they're talking about the Mounjaro versus the Ozempic. So, a little bit, I think that's meaningful. Don't know what it means though, but to keep that in mind. The Eli Lilly spokesperson said the company does not promote or encourage off-label use of any of its medicines, although its drug is now approved for weight loss. So the Mounjaro has indeed been FDA approved. I covered that in a previous video. So it's not off-label if you prescribe a drug that is approved for weight loss. So I'm not sure what they're saying here. The trial is underway to compare weight loss formulations of 2 injected medicines in patients overweight or obese but without type 2 diabetes. So this here is important because I think this is a very significant compounder. And again, I covered that in a previous video, how the presence of type 2 diabetes, regardless of which drug you're taking, impacts that. Now, these results are not expected till 2025 because we all know weight loss takes a while. Meanwhile, Novo spokesman pointed out that the study report notes the preprint reports new research that has not been certified by peer review and and should not be used for clinical practice guidance. Okay, so this is really important. Now we see from what we see from Novo, they're saying, hey, this isn't a peer-reviewed study and don't use it for clinical guidance. So again, we've got a horse race video. What they're saying is don't jump ship from their medication to the tirzepatide based on this because, you don't know how meaningful it is. All right. From my perspective, not enough data to really analyze it very much, except to say this is interesting, could be used as a pilot and guidance, but maybe not something that I personally won't jump ship from the semaglutide at this point, just based on this data. But it's really interesting, and I'm really going to keep my eyes peeled for it. And I'll also be continuing to look on Medscape and elsewhere for data that is on this topic. All right, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you all have a great day. Bye.